Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Depictions Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs, and in today's show we have two major segments. The first major segment is the Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland. She is holding a news conference in Brampton, Ontario, and she is touring a local trucking facility of Brampton. And she is joined by Liberal MP Safak Ali of Brampton Centre. And she is also joined with Rudy Sahota of Brampton North. And the leaders from the trucking company that they're actually touring. What makes this particular stop important is they're going to be talking about the economics of Canada, inflation, gas prices, and the carbon taxes, and greener vehicles for transporting goods back and forth across Canada. And the economics of that and what it's going to cost us when we go to the store to buy things. Right now, with fuel prices rising the way they are, we're also starting to see prices rise for food. We're starting to see prices rise for other goods around us. And it is a key trigger to inflation. Chrystia Freeland is also talking about how Russia and China are actually adding into this particular round of inflation, especially with our gas prices and our costs to be able to get essential goods back to our homes. But is that the whole story? Is there more to it than that? What about the carbon tax? Why is it that the carbon tax cannot be relaxed a little bit so that things become a little more affordable to us as consumers, as the average person? What about the idea that the oil and gas companies have seen record-breaking highs in profitability? Why aren't they being made through that same carbon tax to pay back to us as the average citizen? Why aren't these corporations made to give up some of those profits, or at least use those profits to build greener things that would eventually take us off of fossil fuels and maybe slow down some of the mining of carbon that we're seeing around the world. So these are some of the questions, and some of these questions will actually be asked by other media people within the press conference. So let's let's move on to the second segment. Is again about gun violence. Sadly, in Chicago, during a parade celebration for U.S. Independence Day, there was a shooting. The police did rally, and they managed to find the perpetrators or perpetrator of the shooting. But the question about gun violence, and especially gun violence in North America, is coming to a head. We had of course, the U.S. Supreme Court in the United States make rulings on the gun control and how gun control should be put in place. And we have assault weapon bans and magazine size bans in Canada as enacted by the Liberal government. We've heard Justin Trudeau talk about this. But are these measures slowing down the gun violence? Are these measures slowing down what is actually happening? Again, in Ontario, this time in Toronto, we're going to listen to the Prime Minister and Masai Ujina of the Toronto Raptors and co-founder of the Giants of Africa talking about gun violence. Now, the press is only invited in at the beginning announcements of the roundtable conversation that did happen. And there's a lot of questions about what do we do in our communities to slow down gun violence? What do we need to do to change the attitude of people so that we start to see an attitude of people where people are respected? That we slow down the idea of hate crimes, and that we slow down the illegal violence perpetrated by people. So most of these guns are not legally gained; they're illegally gained, and they're perpetrated by those who are doing other criminal things. In the back door of where we are located in Surrey, BC, that there have been a number of shootings leading into what we are now seeing the first half of 2022. What can we do as people to slow down gun violence? What can we do as people to slow down violence, period, so that we stop hurting one another? As part of what needs to be addressed within our governments, on the Parliament and Congress floors, not only do we need to get the guns out of the hands of the illegal perpetrators, but we also need to get the mindset of our communities away from looking at violence as a viable way of dealing with a problem. So let's start with Justin Trudeau as he talks about gun violence in Toronto, Ontario.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kirsty Duncan. I'm a member of Parliament here in Etobicoke North. Prime Minister, Parliamentary Secretaries Chang and Dama, Mr. Ruchiri, community leaders, community members, thank you for being here today to have this important conversation. It's going to take all of us coming together, all levels of government, community, police, schools, all of us, to tackle gun violence. I have the privilege of serving in this caring community, and we have been hit hard by gun violence. It's devastating to hold grieving parents in your arms. It is heart-wrenching to go to their children's funerals and be there in the weeks, months, and years to come. Banning military assault-style firearms and strengthening gun control to keep firearms out of the wrong hands are important steps, but there is more work to do. I hear it from our community. They want stronger, quicker action. And Prime Minister, everyone knows how caring and how you listen, and we thank you for coming here to listen, and we're grateful for the ideas that you will share today. And with that, Prime Minister, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kirsty, my friend. What a pleasure to be here to chat with you all, but it's such a pleasure to be here in Etobicoke North. Kirsty and I were elected on the same day many, many years ago, and have sat beside each other in the early years, and I have to say, we've had far too many conversations about heartbreak in your riding, in Toronto, from gun violence impacting communities, impacting families, turning everything upside down in so many ways anytime a parent needs to show up at a child's funeral. Your steady leadership, your voice within caucus, and your connection with community has been an essential part of making sure that we've gotten this right and we've kept pushing in the right way. So thank you for your continued leadership, dear friend. It's so good as well to be here with Masai, whose leadership in so many ways, on and off the court, has been really extraordinary to watch over these past years. To which you have invested yourself, not just in this unbelievable team that has rallied together all of Canada, but in connecting with Canadians and empowering young people and inspiring them not just through sport but through community leadership and development is exactly what one hopes of coaches, teachers, inspiring figures, and it is just such a pleasure to be here with you today, my friend. And all of you, thank you. You are here today because you have been engaged in varied ways, in community, in leadership, in listening, in helping people through unnecessary heartbreak, but also focusing on how we can heal and how we can fix things going forward. And I see many voices and many faces around here who we've been able to work with over the past years as this government has pushed forward on a range of measures. There's always more to do to fight gun violence, to reduce its impact, but we've done a lot of big things as a government, a lot of it inspired by conversations with you and folks like you right across the country. Whether it was moving forward with a ban on military-style assault weapons in this country, giving more tools to police to interdict illegal guns crossing the borders and strengthen their community presence in positive ways, whether it's been direct investments in some of the work that so many of your organizations are doing with young people to make sure that they are empowered and able to be directed in constructive ways that will fulfill them and build stronger community leadership and service opportunities for them. Or whether it's our most recent initiative on on freezing the market for firearms, which will start moving us in the right direction over the medium and long term. These are things that you all had voices in, and I'm really excited about not just hearing about the impacts of these things, but talking about how we continue to move forward. Because, yes, we see a debate around gun control, but there's not a debate around whether our communities need to be safer, whether we need to keep kids safe from violence, whether we need to see fewer gunshot victims in our ERs. There is no debate around that. There are lots of important conversations about how to best do that, but as we know, there is no one magic way of doing it. There's a lot of measures put together, a lot of people working hard, a lot of different angles to come at the problems. And that's really what this conversation is all about, to make sure that we're thinking about everything we can do as a government and as a country to protect our kids, to protect our communities, and to build a strong future. C'est un privilège et un plaisir d'être avec vous tous aujourd'hui pour parler de tout ce qu'on a fait et surtout tout ce qu'on va continuer de faire pour lutter contre la violence avec les armes à feu, pour améliorer le contrôle des armes à feu et surtout pour rendre nos communautés et nos jeunes plus sécures et plus protégés dans les années à venir. So thank you all for being here, and now it's with great pleasure that I pass it over to my friend Masai. Masai.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and it's such a honor to be here, Honorable Christie. Thank you for your kind words, and I think we all know exactly why we're here, and it was, I think, very important for me that the community is heard and people say exactly, like some of the things that they feel is leading to these issues. So I won't speak too long. I just want to say thank you to the Prime Minister for giving us this audience. As a friend, I want to say thank you because every time I've called on you with some of these things, like you really stepped forward, being the issues, and we always try our best, like to serve the community as good as we can. So, gun violence, we know that this is not just an issue for marginalized communities, and we know some of these issues that are rising. We see in our neighboring country, and we see it here. We're hoping that we can get this under control in our own dear country. Mental wellness, whether it's a lack of education, whether whatever the issues are, domestic violence, all these things that are causing, we have to be in front of them, and this is what I want from this community here, is to say these issues. Let's be brief as brief as we can. We have few people that want to speak here today and want to say their minds, and the Prime Minister is here to listen to what you have to say. Let's express our solutions, and then it's key that we talk about next steps, because sometimes we come into this environment and we do all the talking, and the last couple of things I know I've done with the Prime Minister, we brought next steps and we went and got them done, and that's why I'm confident that, we talk about these things, and we as community leaders, we don't go back and retrieve, I think we come back together and really, really see the importance of what we want to do here to help our communities and help the country, because we have victims in here. We have victims. We have people that kids were killed because of gun violence. So thank you for coming out and representing your communities, and bless you. Let's have a good conversation.
Thank you, Masai. So we're going to thank our friends from the media. Thank you for
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Shafqat Ali, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Brampton Centre. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we are gathering today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Oded. We also acknowledge the many First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and other global indigenous people that now call Brampton home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. We are joined by my colleague, the Honorable Chrystia Freeland, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Ruby Sahota, the Member of Parliament for Brampton North. Manindra Sidhu, the Member of Parliament for Brampton East. And Sania Sidhu, the Member of Parliament for Brampton South. I would like to thank KJS Transport Inc. not only for graciously hosting us today, but also for being one of the many great logistics success stories here in Brampton. They are among the frontline workers of the transportation industry, which played such an essential role throughout the pandemic, ensuring that vital supplies were readily available to Canadians. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Tanveer Singh from KJS Transport Inc. to come and speak, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Minister Freeland, members of Parliament, and members of the ODTA and guests. My name is Tanveer Singh. I'm the Operations Manager here at KJS Transport. On behalf of KJS Transport and our team, we welcome you to our facility. We are very happy to have you all here with us today. This company was founded in 2002 by my father, Kawant, and my uncle, Jinder. They were two immigrants who arrived in Canada from Punjab in the 90s and worked hard to build up this company. They started out as truck drivers who had one truck each and drove it themselves as owner-operators. Slowly, as they saw the demand in the logistics services grow in the region, they began to acquire more trucks and expand. Today, this facility is home to 300 pieces of equipment, a mechanical shop, a warehouse, and a head office. KJS, being one of the leaders in the local industry, employs over 150 people, including drivers, mechanics, dispatchers, and office staff. We are proud to provide quality jobs to young people, new immigrants, and diverse members of the local community. My cousin Amr Buttar and I have plans to continue growing as we are the next generation in our family carrying on this business. It's a tough industry, but an important one. That is why we are committed to working with our government and other partners in the industry to keep it strong. Again, thank you all for taking the time to visit us today. It means a lot to us and our entire team. Thank you.
Okay, all together? Sure. In front of the podium? Okay. Oh, maybe, yeah, in front of the podium. Yes, good idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We know that for people in Brampton and across Canada, affordability is a top concern. That's why our government has made affordability a top priority, while also supporting small and medium-sized businesses. Now I'll turn it over to Deputy Prime Minister Freeland to talk about our plan.
Merci beaucoup, Shafkat. Je tiens d'abord à souligner que les terres sur lesquelles nous sommes réunis font partie du territoire traditionnel des Mississauga de la Première Nation Credit et avant eux le territoire traditionnel des Haudenosaunee, des Hurons et des Wendat. So I am so glad to be here in Brampton today and to be here with my friends Shafkat, who was nice enough to introduce me, to be here with Ruby, Maninder, and Sonia, and many of their family members. We have such a great team of MPs here in Brampton, and I just want to say to everyone who lives in this great community, you are so well represented. Your MPs are hardworking, they are smart, they are persistent when their communities need something. I know that resistance by me is futile and better just to listen to them and to do what they tell me Brampton needs. I also just really want to say how happy I am and how really inspired I am to be here today at KJS. What I saw today, what we're all seeing around us, this is Canada, and this is Canada at its best. A hard-working family working together, creating great jobs in the community, creating, as we just heard, jobs for new Canadians, jobs for young people here. Everyone I talked to, I could see how enthusiastic they are about their work, how hardworking they are, how talented, how collaborative. And I really just want to say, seeing the work you do here, it makes me proud to be Canadian. It inspires me about our country. And I'm just really, really grateful to you all. The past 2 years have demonstrated just how important strong and reliable supply chains are. They were absolutely critical in getting the supplies and the vaccines that Canada needed to get through the pandemic. And actually, I asked one of the women who works in the front office how the COVID reopening was going. A very nice woman called Leslie, and she said, you know what? We never shut down. We provide essential services, and you certainly do, all of you here, and I'm really grateful to you for that. It is your work that keeps the shelves of our grocery stores stocked. You are the people who make sure that we can put food on the table. I know that KJS does a lot of work in the automotive industry. Your work means our car sector can keep on operating and people who work in it continue to have great jobs. Today, our economy is recovering very strongly from the COVID recession. Our GDP today is 2.2% bigger than it was when COVID hit, and we have the strongest jobs recovery in the G7. And that means that we need our supply chains today more than ever to continue to drive economic growth for Canada. And we know that the heart of strong and reliable supply chains is truckers. Truckers here in Canada who move the goods that Canadians need at all hours of the day and no matter what the weather. And it is inspiring entrepreneurial, innovative companies like KJS here in Brampton and the hardworking drivers, mechanics, front office people who I've had the real privilege and honor of meeting today, without whom our country, our economy would not function. Alors que notre économie continue de croître et pour assurer que nos chaînes d'approvisionnement peuvent livrer les biens dont les Canadiens ont besoin, notre gouvernement travaille fort pour que notre industrie du camionnage reste forte dans les mois et les années à venir. So that's why we've implemented 10 days of paid sick leave for workers in federally regulated sectors, including trucking. We fought to protect NAFTA and Canada's trading relationship with the United States. So much of the work done out of these offices, these warehouses, is cross-border work. People here know very, very well how important that relationship is. We fought to preserve it, and we're going to continue to do that. We're investing in immigration. This is a remarkable competitive advantage that Canada has in the world. And we need to continue as a country to rely on our really unique and remarkable openness to immigration, the fact that we are a society that welcomes new Canadians as a way to create shared prosperity for all of us in the years to come. To make sure the trucking industry can remain competitive in the green economy of tomorrow, we are investing in helping you make your trucks more energy efficient, like the beautiful brand new green dump truck I saw just out in the yard, and in getting more zero-emission trucks into fleets. And we are helping our Canadian businesses grow and create good middle-class jobs in places like innovative entrepreneurial companies like KJS. But even as the Canadian economy is growing, and as Canada continues our strong recovery from the COVID recession, I know that inflation is making life more expensive for families here in Brampton and across the country. Inflation is a global phenomenon. It's caused by Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and it's caused by China's zero COVID policies and by the supply chain snarls, which have affected the whole world as we have opened up in the wake of COVID. And actually, the trucks that I am looking at right now behind the cameras, those are actual physical examples of how global supply chain problems are creating real challenges here in Canada. The wonderful mechanics here at KJS explained to me that those trucks aren't able to leave this workshop because they're waiting for parts that originate in China. So we really are, all of us, affected by global supply chain problems, and we're feeling it. We're feeling it when we go to buy our groceries. We're feeling it when we go to fill up our cars or our trucks with gas. So what is our government going to do to help Canadians weather this latest storm? Well, what we're going to do is exactly what we've done over these past 2 years of COVID. We have a plan, and we're going to work together and support each other to get through this. We've introduced programs like the multi-generational home renovation tax credit. That's going to make it more affordable to have parents or grandparents living with their family under one roof. Also, an important part of solving the housing challenge many of us are facing. And at this moment of global inflation, our government has an affordability plan to help Canadians directly with the rising cost of living. Here's what our affordability plan includes. An enhanced Canada Workers benefit that will put up to $2,400 additional dollars into the pockets of low-income families starting this year. Cutting childcare fees by an average of 50% by the end of this year. A 10% increase in old age security for seniors 75 and over. That comes into effect this month. A dental care program starting with children under 12 this year. A $500 payment this year to help people who rent and are struggling with the cost of housing. And, of course, our main support programs, the Canada Child Benefit, the GST credit, the Canada Pension Plan, old age security, and the guaranteed income supplement are all indexed to inflation and will be increasing. For a couple here in Brampton with an income of $45,000 and a child in daycare, this affordability plan could mean roughly an additional $7,600 on top of existing benefits, so more than 16% of their annual income this fiscal year. A senior with a disability living here in Brampton could benefit from over $2,500 more this fiscal year than she received last year. Now, these measures are part of the fiscally responsible budget that I tabled in April. We know we can afford it because they are already accounted for in our AAA rated fiscal framework. We got a AAA rating reaffirmed by S&P after the budget was tabled, and this money, this spending, was in that budget. But for the Canadians who need the support the most, for the most vulnerable Canadians who are really struggling when it comes to buying groceries or filling up their car or truck with gas, these measures represent new money that they didn't get last year and will make life more affordable exactly when they need the support the most. This is a difficult time for countries around the world, and it's a challenging time for Canadians. But thanks to companies like KJS and the amazing people who work here, who I was so lucky to meet today, there is absolutely no country in the world better placed to navigate the global economic challenges than Canada. We really are better positioned than any other place on Earth. So let's keep on working together. I know we're going to meet this challenge, and I'm really, really privileged to have had the chance to talk to so many people here today. Okay, now back over to Shefkat.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Now, I'd like to pass on the mic to Adrian, the Press Secretary of Deputy Prime Minister, for media questions. Thank you. Adrian? Sorry, can't you?
Bob.
Oh, sorry, Bob, I miss you. My apology. Ontario Dump Truck Association, Bob. So he would come here to say a few words before we head to the media questions. Please, thank you. My apology.
No problem. Honorable Ministers, MPs, fellow members of the ODTA, and our friends here at KJS Transport. My name is Bob Punya. I'm from the Ontario Dump Truck Association. I'm also a director there. We're a voluntary organization. We work at the grassroots to really discuss trucking issues, specifically in the dump truck industry, but also transport industry issues as well. On this occasion, our association represents roughly around 2,000 drivers, all that are hardworking, and some of them are here today, as you can see behind me. We're happy to be a part of today's events here at KJS Transport. One of the stars in the industry, the trucking industry, is essential, vibrant, part of the region, economy, and the country at large. KJS's owners are also here, Mr. Jinder Buttar and Mr. Kamaljit Singh. I want to thank them for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to be here today. From moving goods to literally building roads, bridges, infrastructure, our hard workers can be found all across Ontario, Canada, keeping everything moving. Minister, as you know, there are challenges in our industry much like those facing other industries, from high fuel prices to high insurance rates to regulatory burdens to labor shortages. The cost of doing business keeps increasing. It's harder than ever for families to make ends meet. That's why we really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. to listen to our concerns, learn more about our industries, and share with us what your government can do to support these grassroots companies and the workers and the families that rely on them. I cannot stress enough how important it is that our leaders be connected to the grassroots organizations and the people like those gathered here today, which is everyone here. I really appreciate you guys coming. Thanks. This is the only way to truly understand how we can work together and keep our economy and country going. Minister, you are the first federal minister to do a visit like this with us. It really means a lot, so much that we look forward to staying in touch, having ongoing dialogue with you and your office. Also, I want to thank the local MPs who are always accessible and responsive to all of us. Thank you. We have a little bit that we wanted to give to the minister. There you go. From
thank
the
you.
association right there. A nice, beautiful jacket there.
That's good. It's good for the rainy weather.
Now she can be a part of our little group.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Now I'd like to pass on to Adrian for media questions, please.
Good afternoon, Minister. Prabjot Sohal from Red FM. Since you're here at a trucking facility, trucker owner-operators are saying that their costs have significantly gone up because of the fuel costs. Fuel prices are up, and last week, Premier Doug Ford was here in Brampton to announce the cuts in provincial gas tax and was asking the federal government to do the same while lowering the carbon tax. So how do you plan to help these truckers with fuel costs and keep the supply chain moving?
Thank you for the question. It's a very important one because the increased price of energy is a challenge for businesses like KJS. It's a challenge for families, and we all know that. I think it's important for us also to be really clear on what is driving this increased price, and it is Vladimir Putin's illegal war in Ukraine. We need to be very, very clear about that, and that's one reason I think as Canadians we should be proud of the strong action our government is taking to support the very brave people of Ukraine. But when it comes to companies like KJS, when it comes to Canadian families, let me say two things. First of all, from my perspective, this price increase in fuel costs is a reminder of why climate action is so important and why, as a country, we have to work even harder and move even faster towards a green economy. It's an insurance policy against higher energy prices. And, I was very interested and inspired to hear about the measures being taken here, the trucks being purchased here, the dump trucks being purchased, which are more energy efficient than previous generations of trucks. And that, as I said in my remarks, is something our government is going to continue to support with targeted support to the trucking industry to help companies like KJS kind of future-proof themselves against future energy shocks. In terms of energy prices and the carbon price and Brampton families, I think it's important to remind people that, our price on pollution is going to help the whole country transition to a green economy. It's going to make us safer in the future and protect our planet. But at the same time, that money goes directly back to Brampton families. Brampton families are going to get $745 for a family of 4 back this year through the price on pollution. Now, that's really significant when it comes to a family buying its groceries, buying fuel. And then the final thing I'll say on fuel costs is I am very aware of affordability challenges everyone in Canada is facing. We need to balance what we do in terms of affordability with the need for fiscally responsible policies right now. The last thing our government wants to do is to pour fuel on the flames of inflation. We don't want to make the problem worse. So we're always looking for a balance between supporting families and fiscal responsibility. And that means that nothing is off the table, and we're going to keep on, really, I liked what Bob had to say about talking to people across the country. That's my personal mission, to talk to Canadians, to talk to Canadian entrepreneurs, to talk to Canadian workers, to talk to Canadian families, understand what the economy looks like from their perspective, and we're always ready to be agile and do more as needed.
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, this is a follow-up. Lowering childcare costs is part of your affordability plan. In Ontario, while municipalities are accepting applications, we are hearing from many operators that they are reluctant to sign up. Some are even withdrawing their applications, saying that they don't have clear financial details and don't know if they'll be able to meet their costs. What is your plan to make the province accountable for this money, because it's the federal fund, and how do you ensure that the plan is implemented and goes ahead?
That is an excellent question, and part of my answer is I am relying on journalists like you and your listeners and the people of Brampton. I am a mother of 3. I know how important it is for mothers, for parents, to know our children have the best possible care and early learning. I think it's impossible for a mother to leave the house and go to work if you don't know your children are being really well educated and taken care of. And I also know for mothers who are out working, how expensive childcare is right now. A lot of people said to me as we were putting together our childcare plan that childcare costs were like a second mortgage. And so absolutely bringing down childcare fees by 50% this year, which is the commitment, will be a huge, huge source of support when it comes to affordability challenges. And by the way, it's going to help with our labor force challenges as well, because it will make it easier for mothers to work if they choose to. That is why I was really glad to come out here on March 28th and announce an agreement with the province of Ontario, $10.2 billion over 5 years for early learning and childcare. I've heard the same concerns that you referred to in your question about challenges with putting that money into action. It's the responsibility of the province to put this plan into action. The fact that Ontario was the last province that we signed a deal with does inevitably mean that this is happening on a little bit of a later timeline than in other provinces. There are provinces across the country where that 50% reduction has already come into force. But, we have a very good working relationship with the province of Ontario. We are very committed to early learning and childcare. I believe the province is too. We're happy to provide them with whatever support we can to put this in action. And I really want to say, I'm grateful for the question, and everyone for whom this is an important issue, make your voice heard. The money is there.
Hi, Minister. This is Jasleen from PTC Punjabi News Channel. Looking at the cost of living and high inflation rate, recession fears are already growing across the country. Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives did a study, and as per them, Bank of Canada's strategy of rapidly increasing the key interest rate will likely trigger a recession. So at what point should Canadians be concerned?
Look, I think it's really important for me to be honest with Canadians. And being honest with Canadians starts by saying no one has a crystal ball about where the economy is going to go. There are some very unpredictable global forces in play, which we don't control. You know, I can tell you, Vladimir Putin does not call me up when he makes his war plans, and the government of Canada is not in charge of how China is dealing with COVID. So there are some significant forces out there which our government is not responsible for. But what I can tell you is this. Of all the countries in the world, certainly of all the major industrial economies, there truly is no country better positioned to deal with the current economic challenges than Canada is. We are predicted by the IMF and the OECD to have the strongest rate of economic growth in the whole G7 this year and next year. That's a real strength going into a challenging time. I would also say to Canadians, you know, the institution whose job it is to bring inflation back under control is the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada has the mandate, it has the tools, and it has the expertise to do that. And I think we should all have confidence that the Bank of Canada will do its job. And then, you know, finally, what we all, I think, are working towards and hoping for is a soft landing. We've been through so much in the past 2+ years, right? We've been through COVID, we've been through lockdowns, we've been through the COVID recession when 3 million people lost their jobs. Now we're going through the reopening of the Canadian and the global economy, plus a war and the attendant high prices. So really, I think we need to think about this as kind of a single economic storm. And what we're all trying to do together is land the airplane of the Canadian economy and land it in a way that we see prices coming down, but stable growth and high levels of employment maintained. What economists talk about as a soft landing. And I really believe there is no country better positioned in the world, certainly no country in the G7 better positioned than Canada to achieve that soft landing.
I do have a follow-up question, as my colleague mentioned about the gas tax reduction. So Ontario government recently announced the temporary gas tax reduction, but the experts are saying that gas tax cuts won't do much without the help from federals. So is government
won't do much
planning
without, sorry?
From federals. So is government planning on matching the tax reductions to help Canadians?
So no action is off the table. We're looking at all possible policies, and we are aware, you know, the biggest affordability challenges for Canadians are the price of fuel and transport, the price of food, and housing. So we're looking at everything. And I would point out that when it comes to the carbon price, that is money which is going back into the pockets, into the bank accounts of Canadian families. All of us, family of 4 here in Ontario, we're going to get $745 back this year. That is really significant, and that in and of itself is a significant help with affordability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.